Chapter 37. Intending deeds in the world for the sake of humans is a type of shirk. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said,
من كان يريد الحياة الدنيا وزينتها نوفي إليهم أعمالهم فيها وهم فيها لا يبخسون أولئك الذين ليس لهم في الآخرة إلا النار وحبط ما صنعوا فيها وباطل ما كانوا يعملون.
Whoever seeks the life of this world and its glitter, we will confer upon them their deeds without diminishing them. These are those for whom there is nothing in the hereafter but the fire, and what they did for that is disgraced, and what they were doing was in vain. Surah Hud, chapter 11, verse 15 and 16. In Sahih al-Bukhari from Abu Huraira radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, that he said, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, ruin for the worshipper of dinar, ruin for the worshipper of dirham, ruin for the worshipper of khamisa, ruin for the worshipper of khamila. If he is given, he is pleased, and if he is not given, he is displeased. Ruin and humiliation. He cannot even find relief from the slightest prick. But Tawbah is for the worshipper taking the reins of his horse in the cause of Allah, his hair flying, his feet dusty. If he is assigned the watch, then he remains on watch. If he is assigned the rear guard, he guards the rear. Yet if he asks permission, he is not permitted, and if he intercedes, his intercession is not granted. Important points. Number 1. People do deeds of the hereafter while intending only the world. Number 2. Explanation of the ayah of Surah Hud. Number 3. Calling a Muslim worshipper of dinar or dirham or khamisa. Number 4. The explanation of that if he is given, he is pleased, and if he is not given, he is displeased. Number 5. His saying ruin and humiliation. 6. Saying he cannot even find relief from the slightest prick. Number 7. Praising the kind of mujahid described. Commentary by al-Sadi. What is said about Riya and intending deeds in the world for the sake of humans is a type of shirk. Knowing that sincerity for Allah is the foundation of the religion and the essence of Tawhid and worship. It is when the worshipper intends all of his deeds for the face of Allah, for his rewards and his favors. So he maintains the 6 foundations of faith, the 5 signs of Islam, and the fulfillment of faith, ihsan, as well as the rights of Allah and the rights of his worshippers. In this way, his intention is perfected for the face of Allah and for the abode of the hereafter. He does not intend by this to be seen, nor to be heard of, nor does he do it for position or for worldly matters. By this he will have completed his faith and Tawheed. Among the worst behaviors that diminishes sincerity is to perform deeds just to be seen by people for their praise or to honor them, or doing deeds for the sake of worldly matters. This degrades sincerity and Tawheed. There are some details about Riya. If a worshipper does a deed with the goal of having people see it, and he remains with this evil intention, then his deed is disgraced and he commits minor shirk, and he runs the risk of it leading him to major shirk. If the worshipper does a deed intending the face of Allah, and with that he is also intending it for the sight of people, if he does not remove the Riya from his deed, then the texts are clear that this deed is also fake. When the worshipper does a deed for the face of Allah alone, but Riya surfaces for an instant during the deed. If he wards it off and purifies his sincerity for Allah, then there is no harm in that deed. But if he settles for that, becomes tranquil with it, then the value of the deed diminishes, resulting in a weakening of his faith in proportion to the amount of riya that survived in his heart. Still the deed remains for Allah, but whatever portion of it he mixed up and was confused about is riya. Riya is a dangerous disease which requires the soul to hasten to disciplining itself in sincerity, to wage war in defense against the destruction caused by riya, to oppose its assault, seeking Allah's help to defend against it, so that perhaps Allah will purify the worshipper's faith and complete his Tawheed. As for deeds done merely for worldly reasons or for the attainment of things in the world, if the worshipper's intent is always for this goal, without having the objective of doing things for the face of Allah and the abode of the hereafter, then there will be no reward for him in the hereafter for these acts. Acts characterized in this manner will not be found in the hearts of the believer, for the believer, even if his faith is weak, will certainly bring the goal of Allah and the abode of the hereafter to mind. As far as the one who does such acts for Allah's face as well as for the sake of the world, these objectives being equal or approximately so, then these will, if he is a believer, diminish his faith, Tawheed and sincerity. His deeds will be diminished because he has forsaken complete sincerity in them. One who does a deed for Allah alone and is most sincere in his deed, having complete sincerity in it, but for that deed he receives wages designated to help in work for the religion, wages that are to spent on good deeds, such as the mujahid who deserves some spoils of the war or provision for his struggling, or like in the case of an endowment that is responsible for paying the salaries of those who work in the masjids, schools and other religious positions, then there is no harm on the worshipper's faith and Tawheed to accept such wages, since it is not being used for worldly work. It is only intended for the religion, and the objective is that the individual who receives it does work in the religion. For the reason Allah designated a great portion of the Sharia wealth like zakah and spoils of war for those who work for religious endowments as well as helping to benefit in the world. This topic is well known. The previous examples help to make the ruling for these many important issues clearer for you. It is up to you to judge similar cases in their proper light, and Allah knows best.